Welcome to this week's moonLight of Emuna, Parshas Mishpatim, Parshas Shekalim, Shabbos Mavarchim, Rosh Chodesh Adar. This week's learning should be a schus for a full shleim from Nosson Feitel ben Yehudis, Yudah ben Achman, Recham ben Makaleya, Shmuel Shnei Zan b'Chei b'Chavim, Menachem Mordechai ben Ofira, Shlam Zcham bas Shifra, and Lili Nishmas, Chana Masha bas Menachem Mendel, Ratz bas Menachem Mendel, and Heni bas Yechiel Mechel. So we come to Parshas Mishpatim, coming off the high of Parshas Yisrei, after all the Parshas of Bereshis and the first Parshas of Shemais, with all the stories and the inspiration, especially the high point of last week of receiving the Torah. We come to a parsha that's filled with technical halachas, especially as many Sfarim point out. We were at Har Sinai, and the first thing in this week's parsha is the subject of the Eved Ivri, right? A person who fell to the lowest place, a Jewish slave. He stole, he lost money, he had no money, the lowest place that a person can fall to, right? And after the highest moment of Matan Torah, this is what the Torah goes to, and then the parsha goes to these other uplifting topics. I'm saying uplifting sarcastically: selling one's daughter, murder, injuring others, an animal killing someone, a bar, a ganef, an arsonist, an einus, and a mafata, and right, and then it goes on to helping poor people, giving loans, widows and orphans, until it picks up again at the end with Shemitah, the Yamim Tovim, the promise of Eretz Yisrael, and finally with Nasa v'Nishma back to Har Sinai. Why the interruption with these technical details? Why remind us at this height of connection about the poor, the widow, the orphan, the slaves, the ganavim, the murderers, and etc.? There are many areas of halacha that the Torah waits to teach us. What is it about these halachas that we need right here when we just experienced the greatest moment in world history? And the truth is, though, that just based on the calendar, we see that this week is special, right? Besides Parshas Mishpatim, it's Parshas Shekalim, and it's Shabbos Mavarchim Chodesh Adar, ushering us into Mishnichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. So how do we reconcile this? So many of the tzaddikim over the years have focused on this question, and many ideas are offered. But I saw an idea in Rav Shimshon Dov Pincus's Tveres Shimshon on Chumash that I think can really help us understand. He says there's a tremendous yesod in tefillah that's very deep, and it's so important for us to understand and work on. When a person faces a real challenge in life, for example, he's in financial trouble and he has no natural way to get the money that he needs. So what does a frum yid do? He calls his friends to see if he could borrow money. He runs to tzaddikim to ask for brachas, and of course he also davens and he begs Hashem for help. Another example: someone in his family is chas v'sholom sick, so he does all of his ishtadlus. He takes them to the doctor, he takes them for tests, he gets them medicine, he calls people for specialists, he'll fly to a hospital that has a renowned doctor, and as part of his ishtadlus, he davens, he says Tillim, he starts a Tillim WhatsApp, he does it all. This approach, says Rav Pincus, is like an ani going from door to door asking for help, right? He's trying every avenue of help that he could find. He looks to multiple places, hoping that somebody will help him, or that the combination of help from various people will help him get his head above water, right? Maybe not one friend is going to give him the money that he needs, but maybe a few of them will give him some of it, and together he'll be able to raise that money. What happens when a person knocks on our doors asking for help, right? We're sitting at home at night and somebody knocks on the door, asks us for tzedakah. So most of us have had this experience countless times. So sometimes we give him a few dollars without really listening to his situation. Sometimes we listen and maybe it pulls on our heartstrings and we give him a little more. But I would assume that it rarely, if ever, happens that someone we never met or heard of before knocks on our door and we take care of the whole problem, right? He says he needs $50,000 for something and we take care of it. Why? Why don't we help him? Is it because we're heartless, or because we don't believe him, or we don't care? Well, the truth is maybe sometimes we don't believe him, or sometimes he catches us in a mood where we're not so caring, but that's not usually it. Usually we feel bad for him. We want to help. So why don't we? Assuming we could afford to. Let's say it's something we could afford to. We have money sitting in our tzedakah account. Why don't we give him the amount he needs to make the chasana, to pay his medical bills, etc.? And even if we can't cover the entire amount, why don't we give him something more substantial than a few dollars, right? See, the answer is really, in most situations, not because we're bad people or heartless or uncaring. Really, the answer consists of two points. The first one, and really the 2 points are really the same. The first one is that we follow halacha. The Rambam paskins in Hilchas Matnas Aniyim, Perek Zayin, Halacha Zayin, v'ani ha'mechazer al psachim, ani that goes from door to door, ein niskakim le'le matana meruba. We don't give him a large gift. We're not supposed to give him a large gift. Aval nois le matana muetes. We give him a small amount, right? We give him a small amount. And then he goes on to the more famous part of this halacha that the Rambam is quoted: "V'asur lahachzir el ha'ani sheshol reikom." We don't let him leave empty. We don't let him leave empty handed. Va'afilu atanois legroigeres achas. Even if you give him one fig, shenemar al yoshev dach nichlam. The pasuk in Tilim, Perak Ayin Dalid, says, "Let not the dejected turn away in shame." Right? But the Rambam paskins that we don't give him. The guy is going door to door collecting. We don't give him all the money that he needs. And the Shulchan Aruch paskins also. Ani hamach if a guy is going knocking door to door, we don't give him a large gift. We give him a little bit amount. Where does this halacha come from? It comes from the Gemara in Baba Basra, Daf Nun Amud Aleph. Daf Tes Amud Aleph. Tes Amud Aleph. The Gemara says over there was a certain person who was going door to door. He came to Rav Papa. We know Rav Papa from other Gemaras that he was a very wealthy person, and Rav Papa didn't help him. So Rav Sama Breder of Yevo said to him, "If you don't help him, nobody else will. Should he be left to die?" So Rav Papa quoted a brisa that said that we don't help a person who goes from door to door, to which Rav Sama replied that the brisa means we don't give him a large amount, but we give him a small amount. So the halacha is coming from the Gemara, but this halacha in the Gemara sounds very strange. Why don't we give him more? Just because he's going from door to door, he doesn't get from the kupa? Why is this the halacha? Why not give him more, right? Especially, we know the Gemara, there's a Gemara in Shkalim. The Gemara in Shkalim on Daf Tezvav tells us a story about Nochamish Gamzu, right? He was going to deliver a gift to his father-in-law's house, and he met a certain mukashchin, a person who was very sick, and he said to him, "Give me something of what you have." And he said, "When I come back." When he came back, he found him dead. So he said to the corpse, he says that my eyes that didn't see you when you needed my help, and my hands that didn't stretch out to help you, so my eyes should be blinded, my hands should be cut off, my legs that didn't run to help you should be chopped off, and everything happened to him. And when Rabbi Kiva went to visit him, who was his Rabbi, Nachum Gamzu was Rabbi Kiva's Rabbi, he said, "Oily that I saw you like this," and he said, "No, it would be terrible if you didn't see me like this." And at the end, he says you should accept Yisurim. So we see here that Nachum Gamzu was punished, or at least asked for punishment on himself, because he didn't take care of all of the needs of the ani. Lamaisa, based on the halacha that we just quoted, it seems like Nachum Gamzu followed halacha. Okay, I'll get to you, I'll help you, but I don't have to take care of all your needs. So how do we explain that you only give the ani that goes door to door a small amount? So the Gemara in Baba Basra has explained as follows: that a person who can go door to door, so he can fend for himself, he'll find other people to help him. He's not helpless, right? We help him, so we help him. We're part of the help, but we don't solve his problems for him. Let him go. He'll go collect a little bit amount of money from a lot of people, and he'll take care of his problem. Now, if we stop to think about this, what's our thought process? When a poor person comes and he asks for a large amount, and then the donor sends him away, right, with a small amount, what's the donor thinking? Really, what he's thinking is, he'll manage. He'll get by without me. I'm not the only door he's knocking on. He's not going to die of starvation. He'll get to somebody else. Even a miser who doesn't like to give anything and doesn't give him anything, and he slams the door. What's he thinking? He's not thinking, let him die of starvation. I don't care. He's thinking, why do you have to come to me? Let him go to somebody else, right? But we don't really believe. Let's imagine somebody comes to us, and we knew with 100% clarity. I don't know how we know that, but we know that we were the only person in the world who could help him. If we don't help him, he has nowhere else to go, and he will die. We would treat this guy differently. If we can afford to help him, we'll help him. If we can't, we're going to try to find people to help him, right? We'd have to be incredibly cruel to turn him away. So why would we not help the person who knocks on our door? So first of all, it's the halacha. Second, we know we're not his only option. He'll have other eitzes. And the truth is, we're correct. And that's actually the reason for the halacha. That's why we don't give him a large amount. He has other options. Nachum Gamzu's ani was that rare ani that had nowhere else to go, the one that we're imagining. He had nowhere else to go. So obviously, Nachum Gamzu didn't realize that. But that's why he was so hard on himself. I should have realized that. I should have paid attention. I should have realized he had nowhere else to go. There's an interesting medrash in this week's parsha, Shemais Rabbah. It's in Lamed. It says like this. It says on the words Ela Mishpatim. It says Chukov Mishpatim LiYisrael Elu HaMishpatim Lefi She'ein Midosos HaKadosh Baruch Hu Midas Bas V'Dam. Hashem is not like a Jewish king, like a human king. Midas Bas V'Dam Mar La'Acherem La'Seis V'Ein Oisa Klum. Other kings or other people, they instruct people to do things, but they don't necessarily follow their own rules. V'Hakadosh Baruch Hu Ein a king. Ela Mahu Oisa, Mashu Oisa, whatever he says, Hu Oimel Yisrael La'Seis Lishmar. Hashem only gives us mitzvahs that he himself keeps. And the Medrash goes on to tell a story where there was a certain Apikoros who challenged Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Shur, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Kiva about this. How could Hashem keep the whole Torah? But we see from this measure that Hashem keeps the whole Torah. Hashem keeps halacha. Now let's think about that for a second. When we daven, what are we doing? We're knocking on Hashem's door and we're asking for help. But what kind of an ani are we? Which type of the ani are we? Are we like the ani of Nachamish Gamzu, or are we the ani who's knocking, going door to door? If we look at tefillah as one of the many forms of effort that we're making to solve our troubles, maybe the doctor will help, maybe my rich friend will give me the money I need, and also maybe Hashem will answer my prayers, my tefillahs, right? Then we're the ani going from door to door, right? We're that ani who goes door for door. And Hashem says, okay, if you're that type of ani, the halacha tells me not to give you a large donation, just to give you something small. And Hashem gives us a little bit of siyata d'shmayel, help us out, but He's not going to fix the whole problem. But if we do our ishtadlis a different way, right? So the way we're describing now, I go to the doctor, I go to get medicine, I go here, and then I also ask Hashem. That's one of my many efforts. But if we do our ishtadlis differently, I do my ishtadlis because I'm mechuyev to do ishtadlis. That's the way Hashem set up the world. But I don't think that those things can save me. The doctor can't save me. The medicine can't save me. My rich friend can't save me. We turn to Hashem. We daven to Hashem, knowing that only Hashem can help us. We beg Hashem. The other things I do because I have to, but that I know that's not what's going to save me. We beg Hashem. You have to help us. We have no one else. We have nowhere else to turn. If you don't help us, we have no other way out of our problems. When we do that, then Hashem must help us. Hashem has to help us, right? Like we said, the ani who has nowhere else to turn to, you'd have to be cruel not to help. Hashem has to help us. We're going to bench Rosh Chodesh Adar this week, right? This was Esther Hamalka throwing herself down on the ground before the king, and we know that when it says in the Megillah Hamelach, it's not Achashverosh, it's Hamelach, it's Hashem. Only the king can annul the decree. That's how Esther asked. That was the tefillah of Choni HaMagal. We're running out of time, so I'm not going to tell the whole story, but you know the whole story that when Choni HaMagal drew the circle, right, when they needed rain, and he said, Nishba ani b'shimcha hagodol, the Gemara in Tainus Yutes, I swear in your great name, she'eni zoz mikan, I'm not going to move from here, ad shetaracham al b'necha, until you have mercy on your children. Choni HaMagal was saying, we have nowhere else to get rain. You're the only one. I'm not the pauper knocking on doors. I'm not leaving the circle because I have no place else to go. Only you. Now, on the list of topics we mentioned this week's parsha, we have the special attention we're supposed to pay to the widow and the orphan, right? I'm not going to go through all the different mitzvahs, but we have the special attention we're supposed to pay. The pasuk says, it's Perek Chav Beis, pasuk Chav Aleph and Chav Beis, Kol Amon of Yosem Leisanen, you should not pain any widow or orphan. Im ani tanois, if you cause them pain, ki im tzok yitzak alev, they're going to cry out to me, Shemaya eshmat tzakoseh, I'm going to hear their cry, I'm going to hear their outcry. And the Ramban explains this as, he writes, you are pushing him, you're taking advantage of him because he has nobody else to save him. But he has greater help than anybody else. Other people will go to their friends, to the doctors, to other people to help them to take revenge. And those other places that they turn can't help them. Says the Ramban, you know why Hashem says you better be careful not to pain the orphan or the widow? They have no one else to turn to. They turn only to me. If they turn only to me, I'm going to answer them. That's what the Ramban is saying here, right? The pasuk even says that tzak yitzak, they'll cry out twice. What does that mean, cry out twice? Usually a person, if they have a problem, they cry out. They don't cry out twice. Because most people, when they cry out to Hashem and Hashem doesn't help him, he looks for other ways to solve his problems. But the orphans and the widows, they have no other place to go solve their problems. So they cry out over and over until Hashem answers them. And he does. Now, this is not true only for the orphans and widows. It's true for anybody who makes himself like an orphan and widow. Right? It says in the pasuk in Tehillim, Perek Chav Zayin, pasuk Yud, Avi v'imi azavuni, my father and mother abandoned me. V'Hashem yasfeni, and Hashem gathered me in. That is the cry of someone who has nobody else to turn to other than Hashem. He doesn't cry out and then go looking for other solution. He cries out and then cries out, and Hashem will surely answer his tefillah. So we started by asking, last week we experienced Matan Torah, the highest moment of experiencing Hashem's presence. But how do we sustain that in our daily lives? That's what the Torah is coming to tell us. When we have to go to work, when someone steals from us, we have to contend with the challenges of quote-unquote normal life. The only way we can feel Matan Torah every day is by forming the proper relationship with Hashem, a constant relationship. And that is only possible if we understand what that relationship is. Yes, we have to do hishtadlis. We have to do our hishtadlis. We go to the doctor, we call the friend for the loan, we take take the medicine. Of course, that's the way Hashem created the world. But we never think for 1 minute that those are anything other than our obligation of Ishtadlis. They don't bring the solution. Only one thing brings the results. When we turn to Hashem and acknowledge that it's only Him. That's the message of this week's parsha. That's the message of this week's parsha with all the details that we have to constantly remember. It looks like I'm doing business. It looks like I'm dealing with an eved. I'm dealing with a murderer. I'm dealing with people who are doing things to me. We have to remember that it is only Hashem. And the truth is, that's the mitzvah. We don't have time of the machzis hashekel. We're going to read Parsha Shekalim, right? We give a very small amount, a half a shekel. It's our hishtadlus. But no one thinks that they're half shekel, right? If you were rich, you couldn't even give more. No one thinks that half shekel is going to result in anything, right? It's a small amount. Hashem says, you do your little hishtadlis, I take care of the results. And that's the message of Adar and Purim. Like Esther, we throw ourselves before the king, and we know that he's our only address in everything that we need. That's the message of this powerful Shabbos. So even though the Shabbos at first glance looks like some technical issues, some technical stuff, it's so much more than that. This is reminding us that in the day-to-day, you want to hold on to Matan Torah, in the day-to-day, you got to turn to Hashem, connect to Hashem. Remember that all these day-to-day things that look like nature, it's nothing to do with it. It's all Hashem. And therefore the Torah tells you how to deal with it. These lessons are implanted throughout the Parsha, throughout the mitzvah of Shekalim, throughout the story of Purim. And with that, we have to just constantly remind ourselves, connect to Hashem, turn to Hashem. We don't want to be like the ani who goes knocking door to door. We want to be like the ani who goes and says, you're the only one who can help me, like Choni Amaga, like Esther. And with that, we'll see tremendous Yeshuas in our lives. I wish you all a beautiful, wonderful Shabbos.